are certain instances where absolute perfection is important, and especially when you're talking about angles. You know, if you want to if you want to build a nice picture frame, like you got to have perfect 45s, and a little bit of time and setup and effort. I mean, you can build a very simple jig to do stuff like that. You know, segmented bowls, those kind of things. You know, those are all important. But here's a really easy, common example, which I think all three of us can talk to, and that's the squareness of a cabinet, right? And while it is really, really, really important and helpful for you to build a square box, is it an absolute necessity? No, it's not, depending on the type of cabinet you're building. And so for me, you know, people are like, so you build a cabinet, you take your big square and you like put it up in the corner and it's slightly off. If I do that, I don't care. Like, it means nothing to me, right? I'm like, now if it's way off, then I'm like, okay, something is clearly wrong. But it all goes back to, like, if you have your tools set up properly and you're confident in your tools and you're confident in your abilities as a woodworker, if you make the cuts properly and you get everything square, the stuff's going to be square when you assemble it, unless you do something crazy to change that. And so if I put a square in there and it's not absolutely 100% perfectly square, I'm not going to let it worry me so much in most instances. But people get so wrapped around the axle of, like, I'm building a cabinet, it has to be square. Does it? You know, like, if you're building face frame cabinets, I don't care how out of whack your box is. The face frame will make it square.
Scribing is so much more important than squareness when it comes to cabinets.
100%, right?
Exactly.
And
so much more important.
It blows my mind. Now, if you're building inset doors and drawer fronts in a cabinet, a frameless cabinet, then yes, I will agree with you. It is vitally important. However, can you still get by without it? Absolutely.
Yeah, you can figure it out.
And I think people get very nervous and wrapped around the axle about those things. They chase this, you know, total perfection. If you make your cuts, and as you're making the cuts, you're checking them. If I cut a panel and I measure from corner to corner, the first one, the way that I typically work in my workflow, you know, let's say I'm building the vanity, really good example. All the side panels were all the same height. They were all the same depth, right? Every single one, all 6 of them that I needed. I cut my first one. I tested it. It was square. I didn't touch anything after that. I didn't check anything because I have confidence in my tools, because the first one that I cut was right. If I cut that first one wrong, I would identify what the problem is. I would fix it if need be, which 9 times out of 10 there is no need, right? And that's not like to toot my own horn. That's just because if it works and you have everything set up and it worked on the last one, why would it work on this one? And then I go about my business. I'll always check the first piece of any multiple cuts that I need to do. If that's good, I run with it. If I make a cut and it's wrong, then I look into it. I don't come out to the shop and it's like, okay, I have a new project I'm going to build. I'm going to build a vanity. Let me take one entire day to go through every single one of my tools and ensure that everything is perfectly square. Why would I do that if the tools last time gave me good results? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think the only caveat is if you bang it, like if you drop it or something like that.
Right. But then I make that first cut.
Yeah.
I make that first cut. I notice a deficiency, and then I'll adjust from there. Yes, Sedge.
I got a question for you. Have you ever seen a drywall installer use a machinist square when he's putting a corner bead or taping a corner?
They definitely did it in my house because they're all perfect.
Right. So when it comes to boxes, remember I told you Mikey, my business partner, analysis paralysis. He was checking square, and I did frameless. We did frameless cabinets. He was checking square one time. I go, Mikey, wait till I bend that into the corner.
100%. I'm so glad you mentioned that. Right?
Okay, so
you were setting the base.
You guys got to remember, and everybody, listener, please understand this. Jason made a killer point. I very rarely measure a cab square. It's going to end up, if your machines are set up right, okay, to square, okay, like when I'm doing squares now, when I'm cross-cutting for cabs now, I'm on my MFT3. Mm-hmm. I know that's dead on square. I could show you a ton of ways of making sure it's square. But long story short, like I say every podcast now, you're going to have to scribe anyhow. And walls are not straight, and you have to. I've taken cabinets and just tweak them. It's going to go not way out of square, but you're going to have to, I always say, bend it in, or when you take your impact and set your screws into your studs as you install, it's going to take it out of square anyhow. Scribing is the art of your filler strips. And Jason, I saw you use those user scribes. Aren't those sweet?
They're awesome. I've got them right here, and I actually I ordered a set. So when you come this weekend, I'll give you these ones back. But I ordered some.
That guy who invented them, and when I see people invent things like that and then market them, that guy knows. I always forget his name. That guy knows his stuff. He's been in the trenches. He knows what's going on. He goes, and installing. Now I'm going to make one more point about. You said something about inset doors, and in class we did face frames. Okay, and someone says it's not square. I go, yeah, but you have to have a on the face frame, they were taking squares and they were putting in after we cut everything on the Capex. And I go, hey, it's square. And I go, if your machines are set up properly, it's going to do that. But you always, and going way back what you said about the Capex, people bump into things. Okay, so you always check it, especially on the bevel when you're cutting square. Okay, and guess what?
Right.
If it isn't square, that's why you have a hand plane to tweak the door, and no one's gonna know.
Yep.
Okay, good. So I am done getting on. I'm gonna step down from my soapbox, and we have hesitations.
No, I like it.
I guess my only caveat to the whole conversation is, like, if I were to talk to the guy that was, asking about, being, whatever it was, a 30-second off over 4 feet, I guess my only question to him would be, are you still enjoying it? If his answer is yes, then it's like, knock yourself out, dude. Like, go ahead, chase it. Like, you do you, boo. Do you. Right? But if his answer is like, no, this is frustrating, I'm like, what the hell are you doing? If you're frustrated by it, why are you doing it? Why are you doing this?
Right.
But again, like, if you enjoy that thing, like, maybe the rest of his life is just totally chaotic, and this is his only way to, like, gain some semblance of control, or predictability in his life. More power to you, man. Like, maybe it does something for him. It scratches some kind of an itch. But if it doesn't, if you're getting frustrated by it, maybe you're fighting an uphill battle, and you just got to kind of let it go.
Hey, thanks so much for watching this really small cut portion of our podcast. If you want to see the full video or listen to the full podcast, make sure you go to our Patreon page and become a $5 tier patron or higher. Or you can listen to the podcast on all the major podcast platforms as they become available. Until then, we'll see you in the next video.